more difficult to cancel some people or shadow ban them on these decentralized social media. Much more difficult, yeah. And then it could provide like it could change media because yes, we discussed before, you would like have these different functions like crypto oracles, like let's say reporting on something, like reporting facts and being like trying to be as to preserve their reputation and like to build their reputation for providing quality facts and to measure their reputation. And then you have some advocates like basically also building wrappers around these, let's say, crypto tweets, providing some narrative layer on it, like some advocacy kind of layer. But the difference is like, let's say, these crypto tweets are these like crypto posts by, I don't know, the decentralized social networks can be like cancelled and altered, you know, so you like can't edit what you said and you can't just like delete these kind of posts. So it's like more permanent record, but then it's also like yeah, it's good for the historical record. Basically, you can't just airbrush it and change what you said at what point, and it's kind of visible. The metadata you can't tamper with as well.
Hello, welcome back to Mtambo's Desk podcast. My name is Jakub Mtambo, and the following is a conversation with Jakub Simek, a co-founder of Wezesha DAO and an author of Wisdom Enterprising. In today's episode, I will be talking with Jakub Simek about his article, Cryptohistory, under the daily Balajisms series. And now, dear friends, here is Jakub Simek. Jakub, thank you for joining me again at Mtambo's Desk podcast.
Hi, Duke. I'm happy to see you again.
Happy to see you too. Jakub, I would like to start by discussing Balaji Srinivasan concept of crypto history. Can you explain what that means and why it's important?
So crypto history, it's like what Balaji means by crypto history is like the cryptographically verifiable macro history, which sounds kind of like okay, a mouthful, but he's basically he distinguishes also with his concept of the ledger of record. He distinguishes arguments from authority versus arguments from cryptography, and so the cryptographically verifiable macro history, like the first case of it was like Bitcoin ledger, where you can see actually that even the sworn enemies can actually agree on who sent what amount of Bitcoin to what address or to whom at what time. You know, it's like all kind of recorded in the ledger. You know, so it's like. And it's very difficult to tamper with or to change, you know. So this is like the first example of crypto history, but only available, let's say, or only related to financial transactions, which might not be maybe that interesting for many people. But actually, the scope of these cryptographically verifiable pieces of information, pieces of macro history, and the scope is expanding. You know, so you have can have a proof of identity, proof of location, a proof of reserves. With decentralized social media like DSO, Farcaster, and others, something like a crypto Twitter, if you imagine, you can have like basically lots of content being put on chain. In the future, it might be also some other multimedia, but at least, you know, like you can prove that this kind of statement was made by this person at this point. And then the concept of crypto oracles, it's like, and their reputation is also important here. So it's like then the people, as we discussed also before, they kind of split, and the news making kind of splits into two functions. So one is like the crypto oracles, and another one is advocates. So like crypto oracles provide like the cryptographically verifiable streams of data, like the feeds.
Yeah.
And then the advocates are like using that streams of data, the data feeds to create their own narratives and their own stories.
Well, that's a very interesting perspective. With blockchain technology, we can have a permanent record of who claimed what and when, even in the face of censorship. What are your thoughts on how this will change the way we think about the past and the future?
Right. So yes, like Orwell said, like the people who control the present control the past, and the people who control the past control the future. And so, as we discussed also before, in terms of control theory, this is like, and in terms of like micro history, this is true. Like if you know the trajectory of a rocket, like the past state where it was, you can also predict like where it will land in the future, But people are different from, let's say, rockets, because like, or also like financial markets, for example, you can't like do the repeated experiments, because, like once something works, people copy it and then it stops working, it's like because people are kind of like they adjust to your like to some innovations, and so it's like the macro history is not as predictable as the micro history. So like it's not like a trajectory of a rocket, or something that can be like reversed or repeated, or observed through some controlled experiments. So as Balaji says, like you need to write the history to be a winner, because it's just a play on words. The winners write history, so it's like you need to write history to be a winner. But it's also like in very practically, if you have some kind of moral innovation and you are starting your startup society, and eventually the network union, and creating a highly aligned community, you need to actually know the history of that particular moral innovation. Let's say just like a simple example, if you are, I don't know, starting some kind of like keto kosher society where you want to say that sugar is bad, or I don't know, for your health, so you need to actually like provide like proper criticism, and like fact-checked criticism, and the good references, good links to actually the history of, let's say, the fiat food pyramid, like how the like maybe like how the food pyramid was actually changed over the history, and maybe how it was like, let's say, manipulated by, let's say, some lobbyists or something, and let's say I don't know why your innovation, let's say keto kind of diet, like more fat and less carbs and less sugar, why it's better, and so, but you need to know your history well. Let's say the history of the food pyramid, or the fiat food pyramid. It's just a play on word, But it's this is like the example of just like something really practical. And so, for example, if you want to promote longevity, like I don't know, your one commandment or your moral innovation is like the self-improvement is good, or the longevity is good, living longer and longer health spans are good, then you need to know, like, let's say, where the regulators did some not so smart decisions, or why it's the case. Let's say then the medicines are so expensive in the US and quite cheap in India, for example, because of the generic drug industry, or why the FDA is slow in approving medicines, why it takes like 10 years to approve them. What could be done to do it faster, let's say, or some like previous civil society movements like ACT UP during the AIDS epidemic and stuff like that. So you need to like know your history of that moral innovation well, and actually repeat it all the time. It's something like, the Bitcoin people, like the Bitcoin influencers, and like we all love Bitcoin as well, but like, or the big Bitcoin maxis, like they are like talking about Bitcoin 24/7.
Always
Yeah.
tweeting good morning with GM every day,
Yeah. It's but always talking about like the history of Bitcoin, like or what happened here, like always like all the time. Yeah. So yeah, history is important, and crypto history is like a new way how to think about history.
That's a great point. Balaji also mentions that Bitcoin is the truth machine and that it serves a ledger of record, replacing the paper of record. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah. Yeah, so it's like the truth machine. It's actually the name of the book by two authors that actually look at this kind of property of Bitcoin that is maybe underappreciated by regular people, like that actually even the sworn enemies, like let's say it could be like, let's say, Chinese and the US, and let's say some, or it could be like Palestinians and Israelis, or you pick your side, Iranians and Israelis, like they could be enemies, like politically, Democrats and Republicans or something, but they all agree on the state of the blockchain, on the state of the Bitcoin blockchain, says Balaji. So you can have like everybody agrees on who held what Bitcoin at what time, and who transacted what amount to whom at what time, at least this kind of metadata. And because they're very difficult to or almost impossible to alter, and people have a great belief in them, it's like even like Harari, for example, in his books, or in this first book, what is it, Sapiens? He writes about like that everybody believes in the dollar, but actually it might not be true, because like a dollar or true anymore. It's like he writes something similar, like even the enemies believe, everybody believes in the US dollar. But it might not be true actually globally, because because you see people trying to get off dollar, because especially like now after last year and the Russian-Ukraine war, the Russian invasion of Ukraine, you could see something like some unprecedented moves. Let's say the freezing of the reserves of the Russian central bank or something. So like there were some assumptions that were kind of broken. Like it's like, do you own actually fiat? It's like you think you own it, but it's like if it's in your bank, you don't have a root access to it. It can be frozen or something. So like, yeah, it's like what is actually what you own. And actually the US dollar is like definitely the most important currency still in the world. It's like 42, I think 42% of payments are settled in dollars, 30 something in 35 or 33, I don't remember, in euros, and you have like a yuan maybe with 3% or something like that. But now you have also the digital yuan, which is a CBDC. So it's like, it's a central bank digital currency. It's like a centralized crypto. Just greetings to Peter Thiel, like saying that crypto is libertarian and AI is communist, but you can have also reversed. You can have decentralized and centralized technologies, like the social and the crypto and AI. They can be all centralized and decentralized. So, but you have the CBDC that actually crossed 100 billion yuan in payments, and also there were some cross-border tests done in the digital yuan.
Yeah.
And they're at 3%, but it's something like BYD. They can grow fast. Sometimes people like underestimate them, similarly to how they underestimated Bitcoin. And maybe in a couple of years, Bitcoin can become like the world government. Nobody expected, says Balaji. It's like a libertarian world government where actually the Bitcoin is the regulator of or the governor of governments, you know, it's
Yeah.
like the ungovernable governor of governments, says Breed. What is his name? Breedlove. It's Robert Breedlove, I think. Yeah. In discussion with Balaji, he used this kind of term, but it's yeah, just getting back to this point of the truth machine.
Yeah.
So you okay, but like people like Harari wrote this about the dollar, but it's actually not true because dollar is a technological platform as well. Right? It's like a technology, you know, it's like you know, you could be like deplatformed from it, you could be like unbanked, you could so and it can be like inflated away, but it's still like very important currency, the most important, because everything is relative, you know. It's like the US is a very dynamic society still, and so yeah, I mean important currency, not to undermine it, but what the Harari writes, it's like everybody in the world believes in dollar, and I don't think so. I don't think it's true anymore, because like let's say the Chinese are doing the digital yuan, and they want to dominate global trade with the digital yuan. So, but it's still true about Bitcoin, you know, because everybody believes in the state of Bitcoin ledger, because it's very difficult to tamper with, you know. So you can't just like order some central bank or some bank to freeze. You can't just order Satoshi Nakamoto, you know, to freeze someone's funds. So that's why it's a truth machine, you know. Just can make those funds disappear, you know, and it's just like, and you can't alter the history, you know. Getting back to the crypto history, you can like just prove that at this point, at this time, this account, I mean this like wallet held this much of Bitcoin, and this was the transaction between these two wallets at that time. And it might sound trivial, but it's actually really important, you know. It just can't be tampered with. It can be airbrushed from history in a Stalinesque way, you know, like the Stalin, he kind of had these friends of his colleagues or something, airbrushed from the photographs, you know. It's like they were there, and after some time they were not, you know. It was like the guy disappeared from the photograph with Stalin, you know. And this is much more difficult to do with the Bitcoin ledger. You to do the 51% attack somehow and be successful.
Okay, I couldn't agree more. Balaji talks about the idea of downstream media and how current media sources are downstream of the internet, providing only a wrapper around tweets, and other content. How do you think the rise of Web3 and decentralized social media will change this?
Right. Yeah. So yeah, this idea about truth machine or crypto history, it's like very narrow now, like mostly financial transactions on with the DeFi. It can be also smart contracts with the DeSci, like decentralized science. It can be like some truly reproducible research and some kind of, let's say, measurements put on chain through crypto instruments. It could be, let's say, some weather station providing some kind of measurements of temperature and putting them on chain, so they're like publicly visible and hard to tamper with. So but like with the decentralized social networks, actually they might disrupt also Google search, because and they might disrupt various industries like advertising and stuff, because like blockchains, yeah, I mean, they're easier to search. You know, it's just like kind of and more and more data and more conversations will happen on these like decentralized social networks. Imagine something like a crypto Twitter. And if our current downstream media, just to use the Balajism for here, are like just reporting on the conversations that are happening, like upstream of them, they're happening on internet, and they're just like our current media are just like legacy media are downstream of internet conversations. And so they are, as you said, they're just like providing wrappers around tweets, like for political reporting. Let's say Donald Trump tweeted something when he had Twitter still, and then there were like many articles just about his tweets, you know, just like commenting how, like, I don't know, just some angry, annoyed kind of comments on like his tweets. So but like with decentralized social media, first of all, it will be like more difficult to cancel some people or shadow ban them on these decentralized social media. Much more difficult, yeah. And then it's it could provide like it could change media because yes, we discussed before, you would like have these different functions like crypto oracles, like let's say reporting on something, like reporting facts and facts, and being like trying to be as to preserve their reputation and like to build their reputation for providing quality facts and to measure their reputation. And then you have some advocates like basically also building wrappers around these, let's say, crypto tweets, providing some narrative layer on it, like some advocacy kind of layer. But the difference is, like, let's say these crypto tweets are these like crypto posts by, I don't know, the decentralized social networks can be like cancelled and altered, you know, so you like can't edit what you said, and you can't just like delete these kind of posts. So it's like more permanent record, but then it's also like it's good for the historical record. Basically, you can't just airbrush it and change what you said at what point, and it's kind of visible. The metadata you can tamper with as well. And so, sorry, maybe just to conclude or to say, like, conclude this point, the Balaji discusses these some early examples of like this kind of crypto reporting, like some like investigative, like crypto reporting, like people basically using blockchains to or to report on blockchains on some transactions. And we could see it with the SBF and the FTX fiasco, you know, like people reporting on like some funds being moved here and there, and people reporting on some shenanigans, and they saw it on Twitter. Sorry, they reported it on Twitter. So social media are important in this. And crypto social media or decentralized social media will be vital for better quality and uncensorable kind of content. But blockchains are important because, you know, there's like, you can validate it on blockchain, you can double check, you can verify, and it's like you can have like this public citizen journalism, you know, citizen journalists like reporting using blockchain, doing open source intelligence or open source reporting, just using blockchains and reporting, let's say, on of some movements of some funds during this SBF FTX fiasco last year. So that's a good example, like an early example of citizen journalism using blockchains, you know, and we will get more of this. Crypto is still very early. So.
Yeah, true. That's a great conclusion, Jakub, to a discussion. Thank you for joining me today and sharing your thoughts on this fascinating topic of crypto history.
Yeah, thank you, Duke. So it was great to talk to you.
It was great to talk to you too. Well, that brings us to the end of this episode. If you enjoyed listening to Mtambo's Desk podcast, don't forget to subscribe, give this episode a thumbs up, and be sure to come back next week for another episode. Until then, this is Duke Mtambo, and don't forget to do good always.